Sweep in Port Elizabeth presented a picture of tranquility in mid-July, along with mild late winter weather that's not always associated with the friendly city. Port Elizabeth and its environs are also steeped in South African history, and the old and the new live side by side. Monuments that record South African history and stately old buildings that are part of the South African heritage blend in with a more modern and vibrant Port Elizabeth. The contrast between past and present was starkly highlighted when a band of modern gladiators in high-powered machinery descended on the historic town square in Port Elizabeth for the start of the Volkswagen Rally, round 5 of the Stanek National Rally Championship. The new face of South African rallying sees the championship bringing the sport to the people, and the crowds turned out in their droves while the stars signed autographs. The Volkswagen Rally heralded the start of the second half of the season, with 6-time South African champions Serge Damso and Vito Bonafide taking to the Eastern Cape a slender 21-point lead over reigning champions Jannie Habach and Douglas Judd from the Volkswagen camp. For both crews, it provided a pressure situation.
21-point lead in the championship, halfway stage. That's something you think of, or is this just another rally that you have to win?
Well, it's another rally you have to win, and I like to keep the championship points ahead anyway. That's our main this year. You know, it's very difficult to plan everything, but we'll soon see by tonight what's going to happen for the future rally.
The start of the Volkswagen Rally also presented a modern face with a variety of entertainment for competitors and rally enthusiasts. For the likes of former South African champion Hannes Grobler, it's merely a lull before the storm.
The pressure is on because everybody expects us to win again, you know. So we're going to try, and hopefully it will go well, but anything can happen in rallies. So we just hope for the best.
The grand old clock at the City Hall was pointing to 1:30 in the afternoon when the first car rolled down the ramp with the Works VW Golf crew of reigning South African champions Jan Habach and Douglas Judd appropriately in the #1 position on the road. Doing the honours by flagging the cars away was Port Elizabeth Mayor Nxeba Paku, with the Castrol Toyota team of Serge Damso and Vito Bonafide the second car away. Damso and Bonafide were followed by the Sasol Ford Escort of Paolo Piazzamuzzo and Nick Haddon, with crews heading for nearby Aldo Scribanti for the first special stage on the Volkswagen Rally. With 6 special stages scheduled for day 1, the route called for a change of scenery after Aldo Scribanti, with competitors heading for Kucha, the Zuurberg and Uitenhage before arriving back in Port Elizabeth in the early evening. In the longest drought in South African motorsport, Jan Habach and Douglas Judd were attempting to become the first Volkswagen crew to win the Volkswagen Rally. For 14 years, Volkswagen, with their headquarters in Uitenhage, were forced to watch rival manufacturers enter their own backyard and go home with the spoils. Volkswagen hopes were pinned firmly this year on Habach and Judd, with rally aficionados expecting the event to turn into a straight fight between the VW factory pair and the Damso-Bonafide combination in the Castrol Toyota Conquest. The rally buffs looked to be onto a good thing when the two crews posted identical times on the combined dirt and racetrack pipe opener at Aldo Scribanti. It was early days yet, but Habach Judd and Damso Bonafide were 5 seconds quicker than anyone else through the stage, with early battle lines already drawn between the two crews. Third fastest through a stage which predictably drew a huge crowd were Paolo Piazzamuzzo and Nick Haddon in the Sasol Ford Escort. The driver is from Randburg, the navigator from Cape Town, and the pair were trying to get back on track, a season that had promised much, but which had so far not produced much in the way of results. Along with Piazzamuzzo and Haddon, the Natal combination of Etienne Lawrence and Robert Paisley were also trying to get their season back on an even keel. In their first season in the Premier A8 class for kit cars, the Team Total Toyota Conquest pair went into the Volkswagen Rally carrying 2 non-finishes in 3 events. When you're down, the motorsport gods sometimes put the boot in, and the world again came crashing down around Lawrence and Paisley. Ominous signs that one Toyota Conquest had given up the ghost, while another Toyota crew, Class A6 championship leaders Jürgen Fecken and Dave Lukowitz in the Dunair car, went into battle. Fecken and Lukowitz started out 4th in the overall drivers and co-drivers championships with an 18-point deficit between themselves and Class A7 leaders Chart van der Walt and Cindy Harding in the Reeks towing VW Golf. Matters also looked a little dicey for them in Special Stage 1, and there was confirmation that Lawrence and Paisley could catch an early flight back to Durban.
What's the problem?
We're not sure. Looks like maybe one of the buckets actually packed up.
and caused the cam to become solid, and then it broke off both the pulleys. And well, that's the end, I think.
Did this happen in the stage?
Yeah, we changed gear going out of this last bend to the flying finish, and as I was changing, it just went doom, and that was it.
The rally schedule had been carefully planned to avoid a clash with a local railway timetable, and this was one train Yanni Habak and Douglas Judd were happy to miss. Habak was forced to ease off the throttle a little while the last few carriages trundled off into the distance, and then it was a case of foot flat again on a 22-kilometre special stage that included some incredible high-speed sections. Habak and Judd managed to pull out a 2-second gap over Serge Damso and Vito Bonafide, and Paolo Piazzamuso and Nick Haddon only 9 seconds slower. Sophisticated electronic timing equipment on board the car later revealed that the Sasol Ford Escort reached a maximum speed of 201 kilometers an hour on one of the faster sections. There was a little hiccup for Piazzamuso and Haddon with an overshoot, but behind them there was an even bigger hiccup for Hannes Grobler and Dave McGregor in the Bridgestone Nissan Sentra. After 3 wins on the trot in the Group N category, the law of averages caught up with Grobler and McGregor, with the Nissan slowly coasting to a halt with a fuel pump problem that proved to be terminal. The dreaded rally sounds of silence, with Grobler and McGregor also headed for an early flight home. Bearing down on them were Art Group N category rivals Cliff Blackman and Johan Claassen in the Team Total Nissan Sentra, who roared past the stranded Grobler and McGregor to take the Group N lead. It was all happening in the standard car category, with another pair of Group N frontrunners also in trouble. Diffie Moreira and Donny DeVol in the Tony's Radiators Toyota Corolla picked up a puncture which led to a broken wheel rim. That cost the Cape Pair 7 minutes, and they lost the Class N2 lead to Dean Saunders and Graham Hooper in the Team Total Toyota Conquest. The picturesque Zürichberg and the 48-kilometre special stage that was to have a marked effect on the Volkswagen Rally was next on the list. Rally leaders Jan Habak and Douglas Judd sailed through the stage without any problems, but behind them, Serge Damso and Vito Bonafide were struggling in a Castrol Toyota Conquest reduced to 3 wheels. The Toyota lost the right rear wheel early in the stage after heavy contact with a rock that was to cost the former champions 10 minutes and effectively put them out of the running. The incident also compounded on other competitors who struggled to get past the ailing Castrol Toyota Conquest, among them Piazzamuso and Haddon in the Sasol Ford Escort, the Dunair Toyota crew of Fecken and Lukowitz, and Van der Walt and Harding in the Reeks Towing VW Golf, who all lost time to Habak and Judd. An encounter with a small herd of cattle did nothing to help the Van der Walt-Harding cause. Pretoria crew Barry Grobbelaar and Mike Burrows in the Team Total VW Golf were also hit by the Damso Bonafide misfortune, but where some suffered, others prospered, and ironically, one of them was Damso's son, Jean-Pierre. The younger Damso and Pierre Aris, along with local crew Keith Coleman and Uwe Koch, had clear runs through stage 2 and made up wads of time on cars ahead of them. Cliff Blackman and Johan Claassen were well in charge of the Group N category after the demise of Grobler and McGregor. Behind the Italians, Diffie Moreira and Donny DeVol were struggling to make up time after their special stage 2 woes, and Dean Saunders and Graham Hooper had moved into the top 10 and were running at the front of Class N2 in the Team Total Toyota Conquest. The atmosphere at the service area at the end of Special Stage 3 was full of tension. While technical crews went about their work, there were some disgruntled drivers and co-drivers who were not too well disposed towards Damso and Bonafide.
Carlo, how's it going for you?
Now, this stage was a bit disappointing for us. We really went in maximum attack, and unfortunately Serge hit a bank and took his right rear wheel off. The result of that is that we had to drive behind him for 15 kilometers in the dust. And on top of that, the sun was setting, so we could see next to nothing. We had to travel in first and second gear for a long time. So the result of that was that we dropped a minute and a half to Yanni, which we thought we could make up some time on him there.
There was no disguising how Cindy Harding felt about matters, with Chart van der Walt also feeling a little hard done by.
I had my lights on and he just didn't move over, or just slack off a little bit. So we've lost really a lot of time now. And we had a clean and clear stage up to there, so we were expecting to have a good position for tonight, but now with this, I don't know where we are.
The first of the night stages was a spectator affair through the streets of Uitenhage, the home of Volkswagen. Much to the delight of the huge crowd of locals, VW factory pair Jannie Habak and Douglas Judd were now around 2 minutes clear of the rest of the pack. Hopes that after 14 years of trying, a Volkswagen team would finally win their own rally were starting to take shape in the VW camp. The Damso Bonafide Castrol Toyota Conquest was again sporting a full complement of wheels, but the pair were down to 16th place overall, and second place was now held by Paolo Piazzamuso and Nick Haddon in the Sasol Ford Escort. Piazzamuso revels in tarmac spectator stages, and in setting the fastest time pulled back 4 seconds on the Volkswagen crew. Chart van der Walt and Sidney Harding had moved down the pecking order, while Craig Trott and Brian Duncan had moved up the leaderboard in another team total entry. The Italians Cliff Blackman and Johan Klaassen were still firmly in control of the Group N category, and Class N3, with Diffie Moreira and Danny Duval still trying to make up time. Although now restored to 4 wheels, the Damso Bonafide car was carrying battle scars, with technicians still repairing damage from the Stage 3 incident that had caused so much drama.
And, the sun was quite low down by that time, and we came over a blind rise, and I just hit a rock with the back wheel and just took the wheel off. So we had 40 k's or 30 odd k's to drive on 3 wheels.
The final special stage of the day was another spectator-oriented affair in the Port Elizabeth Industrial and Central Business District. Jan Habak and Doug Judd were still having a trouble-free run, and if you keep an eye on the center of your screen here, you'll see a digital display that keeps Habak informed of which gear he's using. There are no such sophisticated gadgets on the Dunair Toyota Conquest, but Jürgen Fecken and Dave Lukowitz were up to 4th place and running at the front of Class A6. After almost slipping out of the top 10, Chart van der Walt and Sidney Harding were fighting their way back up the leaderboard in the Reeks towing VW Golf, but still trailed Class A7 leaders Keith Coleman and Uwe Koch. The local crew had slipped quietly and unobtrusively into 3rd place overall in another VW Golf. In the Group N category, team total pair, Cliff Blackman and Johan Klaassen, were still firmly in control in the Nissan Sentra. Cape crew Diffie Moreira and Donny Duval had lost more ground, while Port Elizabeth driver Gijs Klein and Carolyn Simmer were making steady progress in the team total VW Golf. At the overnight hold, Habak and Judd were a minute and 50 seconds clear of Piazzamuso and Haddon, with Coleman Koch a surprise package in 3rd place. After a day of drama, Blackman and Klaassen and Saunders and Hooper were the 2 Group N representatives in the top 10. But Jan Habak was understandably happy with the way that day 1 had panned out.
Well, so far, we've had virtually no problems at all. We had a very good stage on the 48-kilometer stage. The tyres lasted up until the last 5 kilometers, and it went absolutely 100%. And yeah, we're happy with the lead that we have. Of course, now we've got to keep the concentration for tomorrow, and that's a bit of a mission as well. So we'll try hard for tomorrow.
For local traffic cop Keith Coleman, it had also been a highly productive day.
The long stage, I think Charlton got into the dust, and I think that's what's given us a very good time there. I think tomorrow will be a different thing altogether. The cars behave very good. Otherwise, we've had a good event.